The billionaire's daughter was born blind, until the new black maid discovered the truth. Everyone believed the billionaire's daughter had been born completely blind. For years, no one questioned it. Not the doctors, not the staff, not even her own father. 10-year-old Lana Sterling lived in silence, disconnected from the world, hidden away in a Boston mansion full of secrets. But everything changed the day Denise Stanton was hired as the new maid. She was just someone who paid attention. What she noticed during her quiet work around the house would unravel years of lies, challenge a powerful family's past, and bring to light a truth that had been buried since the day trauma stole a little girl's sight. What started as a desperate job turned into a mission, and what she uncovered would shock everyone, especially the man who thought he had done everything to protect his only child. Welcome back to Eva's Stories. I have missed you all so much. Thank you for sticking around with me. I truly appreciate your love and support. If you are enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video and comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. And trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's continue. Denise Stanton stood outside the wrought iron gates of 47 Marlborough Street, her worn leather purse clutched against her bright coral jacket. The Sterling mansion loomed before her like something from a history book, its red brick facade and white columns screaming old money. Her hands shook as she pressed the intercom button. "State your business," came a clipped voice. "Denise Stanton. I'm here about the housekeeping position." The gates buzzed open with mechanical precision. Denise walked up the cobblestone drive, her black flats clicking against the stones. 3 months unemployed. Savings account down to $200. Her nursing license was suspended indefinitely after she'd reported Dr. Hoffman's illegal organ harvesting scheme at Boston Children's Hospital. The medical board had called her a troublemaker. The media had painted her as a disgruntled employee seeking attention. "Just keep your head down," she told herself. "Clean houses. Pay rent. Stay invisible." The front door opened before she could knock. A severe woman in her 60s stood there, gray hair pulled into a tight knot, wearing a black dress that matched her expression. "Mrs. Patterson, I assume? Follow me. Wipe your feet." The foyer stretched upward 3 stories, crowned by a crystal chandelier that cast rainbow prisms across cream-colored walls. Oil paintings of stern-faced ancestors watched from gilded frames. Denise's reflection caught in the polished marble beneath her feet, and she straightened her shoulders. Mrs. Patterson led her through rooms that belonged in museums. The library held more books than Denise had seen outside of universities. The dining room table could seat 20. Everything gleamed with the kind of perfection that required constant maintenance. "The family rarely entertains," Mrs. Patterson said, her voice echoing in the vast space. "Mr. Sterling works from his study. Mrs. Sterling has her social obligations. The child remains upstairs most days." "The child?" Mrs. Patterson's face tightened. "Miss Lana. She's special needs. Born blind. Requires careful handling." They climbed a carpeted staircase wide enough for 6 people. Family portraits lined the walls, but Denise noticed something odd. In the earliest photos, Harrison Sterling stood with a different woman, dark-haired and laughing. Then came pictures with Charlotte, blonde and posed. But in none of the recent family photos did a child appear. "Mr. Sterling will see you now," Mrs. Patterson announced, stopping before heavy oak doors. Harrison Sterling's study was a shrine to power. Awards covered one wall. Another displayed photographs of him shaking hands with mayors, governors, senators. Behind his desk, windows offered a view of Boston Common, but heavy curtains blocked most of the light. The man himself sat behind a desk the size of a small car, his silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. His navy suit probably cost more than Denise made in 6 months. But his eyes held something she recognized from her nursing days. Exhaustion. The kind that came from carrying weight too heavy for one person. "Miss Stanton." He didn't rise. "Mrs. Patterson speaks highly of your references." Denise had spent 2 days crafting those fake references, calling in favors from former colleagues who owed her. "I worked in private homes before pursuing nursing. I understand discretion. Discretion is essential in this household." Harrison's fingers drummed against his desk. My daughter has very specific needs. She's been blind since birth. Requires a gentle touch. Some staff find her unsettling. Children aren't unsettling, Mr. Sterling. They're just honest. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or pain. The previous housekeeper left suddenly. No notice. People sometimes struggle with Lana's condition. He pulled out a folder thick with medical reports. Multiple specialists have confirmed her blindness is complete and permanent. Congenital cortical visual impairment. Her brain simply cannot process visual information. Denise nodded, though something in his tone felt rehearsed. Practiced. Your duties would include general housekeeping, meal preparation, and assisting with Lana's daily routine. Mrs. Sterling travels frequently for charity work. I'm often in meetings. Lana spends most of her time in the nursery with her tutors and therapists. May I meet her? Harrison's jaw tightened. That won't be necessary for the interview. Mrs. Patterson will show you the nursery later if you're hired. Red flag. In all her years working with families, parents who loved their children wanted them met, acknowledged, seen as people rather than problems. The salary is $60,000 annually, plus room and board. Health insurance included. Are you prepared to start immediately? $60,000. More than she'd made as a nurse. Enough to rebuild her life. Maybe even hire a lawyer to fight the medical board's decision. Yes, sir. Excellent. Mrs. Patterson will show you to your quarters. One rule, Miss Stanton. Harrison leaned forward, his voice dropping. Lana's medical care is handled exclusively by Dr. Phillips. You are not to discuss her condition with anyone outside this house. You are not to suggest alternative treatments. You are not to question her diagnosis. Are we clear? The words hit like a diagnosis she'd seen too many times before. Institutional cover-up. Silence enforced through power and money. Crystal clear, Mr. Sterling. But even as she said it, Denise felt the familiar stirring in her chest. The same instinct that had made her question Dr. Hoffman's surgical schedules. The same voice that had cost her everything when she'd chosen truth over safety. Just keep your head down, she reminded herself. This time, mind your own business. 3 hours later, the fourth floor felt different from the rest of the house. Smaller rooms, brighter colors, but something sterile about it. Clinical. Like a hospital ward disguised as a playroom. Denise found Lana Sterling in what Mrs. Patterson called the nursery, though nothing about it felt nursery-like. More like a therapy center. Mats covered one corner. A table held what looked like Braille learning materials. Soft classical music played from hidden speakers. The child sat in a rocking chair by the window, her back to the door. Long auburn hair cascaded down her shoulders, and she wore a simple pink dress with white tights. Her feet barely touched the ground. Miss Lana. Denise spoke softly. I'm Denise. I'm going to be helping around the house. Lana turned, and Denise's breath caught. The child's eyes weren't the milky white she'd expected from congenital blindness. They were pale blue, almost crystal clear, but somehow vacant. Not the vacant of physical blindness, but something else. Something that made Denise's nursing instincts scream. Are you the new maid? Lana's voice was barely above a whisper. I am. What are you doing by the window? Listening to the birds. Sometimes they land on the fire escape. I can hear their claws scratching the metal. Denise moved closer. Through the window, she could see the fire escape Lana mentioned. And there, clear as day, were 3 pigeons perched on the railing. What do they sound like? Lana's head tilted, as if considering. The fat one on the left sounds grumpy, like he's complaining about the weather. The middle one keeps looking around, nervous. And the one on the right. She paused. She's watching me watch her. Denise's heart stopped. Lana had just described the exact positions and behaviors of 3 birds. Birds that were visible through the window but would be impossible to identify by sound alone. How do you know which one is fat? Oh! Lana's face went blank, that practiced emptiness returning. I just guessed. Sometimes I pretend I can see them. It makes me feel less alone. But for just a moment, there had been something else in those pale blue eyes. Awareness. Recognition. Life. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made them both freeze. Mrs. Patterson's voice carried up from the third floor, speaking to someone in hushed, urgent tones. She's asking too many questions already. Just like the last one. Mr. Sterling won't tolerate another incident. Denise's blood turned cold. Another incident. Another housekeeper who had noticed what she was noticing. And that housekeeper was gone. Lana's small hand found hers, gripping tight. When Denise looked down, those pale blue eyes were focused directly on her face with perfect clarity. "Please don't leave me," Lana whispered. Not like Mrs. Patterson did. Denise couldn't sleep. The staff quarters on the third floor felt suffocating, like a cell disguised as a bedroom. Every creak of the old house made her jump. Mrs. Patterson's words echoed in her mind. Another incident. What had happened to the previous housekeeper? And why had Lana said Mrs. Patterson left, when she was clearly still here? At 2:47 a.m., she gave up on sleep and padded down the hallway in her slippers and purple robe. The house felt different at night. Shadows stretched longer. The weight of secrets pressed heavier. A soft sound stopped her at the top of the main staircase. Crying. So quiet it was almost lost in the house's settling sounds, but unmistakable. Someone was sobbing. Denise followed the sound up to the fourth floor. Lana's bedroom door stood slightly open, revealing a slice of moonlight across hardwood floors. The crying was coming from inside. She knocked gently. "Lana, it's Denise." The crying stopped immediately. "Come in," came a small voice. Lana sat on her bed, knees drawn to her chest. Her pale blue nightgown made her look even smaller in the enormous room. Tears tracked down her cheeks, catching the moonlight streaming through tall windows. "Bad dream." Denise sat on the edge of the bed. "I dream about the blood sometimes." Lana's voice was matter-of-fact, the way children spoke about terrible things they'd learned to accept. It was everywhere. On the walls. On Mommy's dress. On the man's hands. Denise's nursing instincts kicked in. Trauma. This child had witnessed something horrific. What man, sweetheart? The man who hurt Mommy. The man Daddy made go away. Lana turned those clear blue eyes directly toward Denise's face. "You can see me looking at you, can't you? I'm not very good at pretending anymore." The words hung in the air like a confession. "How long have you been pretending, Lana?" "Since I was 5. Since the night with the blood." Lana wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "Daddy said it would be easier if everyone thought I couldn't see. Safer. So the bad men wouldn't want to hurt me like they hurt Mommy." Denise's heart shattered. A 5-year-old child, witnessing violence so severe it traumatized her into psychological blindness. And instead of getting her therapy, counseling, help to process the trauma, her father had decided to maintain the fiction. "Lana, who was your first mommy?" "The woman in the pictures downstairs. Rebecca. She was pretty and she smelled like vanilla. She used to read me stories every night." Fresh tears spilled down Lana's cheeks. "Charlotte isn't my real mommy. She came after. She doesn't like me much. Says I'm damaged goods." Damaged goods. What kind of monster spoke about a traumatized child that way? "Charlotte's wrong. You're not damaged. You're hurt, and there's a difference." Denise reached out, and Lana immediately curled into her arms. "Tell me about that night. About the blood." Lana was quiet for so long Denise thought she'd fallen asleep. Then, in a voice so small it was barely audible, "I was supposed to be sleeping. But I heard voices downstairs. Loud voices. Mommy was crying. I went to the top of the stairs and looked down." Lana's body trembled against Denise's chest. There were 2 men in dark clothes. One had a gun. They were yelling at Daddy about money. About people he'd hurt with his newspapers. Harrison Sterling. Media mogul. What kind of people had he hurt? What stories had he buried or twisted? The man with the gun grabbed Mommy. She screamed. Daddy begged him not to hurt her. But the man said Daddy had already hurt too many people, that it was time for him to know how it felt to lose someone. Denise held Lana tighter, her own tears starting to fall. Then the gun went off. Mommy fell down. There was so much blood. The man turned and saw me watching. He pointed the gun at me and said, "Little girls who see too much sometimes go blind." Then everything went dark. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Conversion disorder. Psychological blindness triggered by extreme trauma. The child's mind had protected her the only way it could by shutting down her vision entirely. After that, I couldn't see anything for a long time. Daddy brought doctors. Lots of doctors. But none of them could make my eyes work again. Lana pulled back to look at Denise's face. It was Dr. Phillips who figured out I could see again. But by then, Daddy said it was better if I stayed blind. Safer. Dr. Phillips knows you can see? He's the one who taught me how to pretend. He said if anyone found out I could see, the bad men might come back. That they might hurt me like they hurt Mommy Rebecca. Denise felt sick. A doctor. A medical professional. Conspiring to keep a child trapped in false disability rather than helping her heal from trauma. Lana, when did your sight come back? Slowly. First just shapes. Then colors. By the time I was 7, I could see everything again. But I was already used to pretending. And Daddy seemed happier when I acted blind. Less scared all the time. The door creaked. Both Denise and Lana froze. Charlotte Sterling stood in the doorway, her platinum blonde hair perfect despite the late hour. She wore a silk robe that probably cost more than most people's cars, and her green eyes glittered with something cold and dangerous. Well, the new maid is learning family secrets. Charlotte stepped into the room, her bare feet silent on the hardwood. Tell me, Denise, what exactly do you plan to do with this information? Denise instinctively moved to shield Lana. I plan to help her. She needs therapy, counseling, proper treatment for her trauma. Charlotte laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Help her? You think you're the first bleeding heart who's tried to save poor little Lana? She sat in the chair by the window, crossing her legs elegantly. Let me tell you about the last maid who thought she could help. Mrs. Chen. Sweet woman. Former teacher. Thought she could tutor Lana, give her a normal childhood. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mrs. Chen started asking questions. Noticed inconsistencies. Sound familiar. Charlotte's smile was predatory. She threatened to call social services. Said she had a duty to report suspected child abuse. What happened to her? Oh, she left quite suddenly. In the middle of the night. Packed her bags and disappeared. Left no forwarding address. Very strange behavior for such a responsible woman. The threat was clear. Comply or disappear. But here's what Mrs. Chen didn't understand, and what you clearly don't understand either. Charlotte leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. Lana's blindness isn't a prison. It's protection. Do you know who killed Rebecca Sterling? Denise shook her head. Antonio Rossetti. Head of one of Boston's most violent crime families. Harrison's newspapers had been investigating city corruption. They uncovered Rossetti's connections to several city councilmen, his involvement in construction contract fraud, his money laundering operations through charity organizations. Lana whimpered and burrowed deeper into Denise's arms. The night Rebecca died, Harrison was supposed to publish a story that would have destroyed Rossetti's empire and sent him to prison for life. Instead, Rebecca died, and that story never saw print. Rossetti sent a very clear message. Exposure would cost Harrison everything he loved. So you're saying Harrison covered up crimes to protect his daughter? I'm saying Harrison made a choice. Protect one child or seek justice for countless victims. He chose his daughter. And frankly, I don't blame him. Charlotte stood, smoothing her robe. Rossetti is still out there. Still dangerous. And if he ever discovered that Lana witnessed his crime, that she could identify him, testify against him. She didn't need to finish the sentence. But that was 5 years ago, Denise protested. Surely. Surely what? The statute of limitations on murder? Rossetti's conscience growing. Charlotte moved toward the door. Let me be very clear, Denise. Lana's blindness keeps her alive. The moment that fiction disappears, the moment anyone outside this house learns she can see, she becomes a target. A loose end. Charlotte paused in the doorway, her hand on the frame. Mrs. Chen thought she was saving Lana too. Right up until the moment she realized she was signing her death warrant. Funny how quickly principles change when your own life is on the line. The door closed with a soft click, leaving Denise and Lana alone in the moonlight. Is it true? Denise whispered. About the danger? Lana nodded against her chest. Daddy shows me pictures sometimes. Of Mr. Rossetti. Says I need to remember his face so I'll know if he ever comes back. But I'm supposed to pretend I can't see him if he does. Lana, do you want to keep pretending? Or do you want to learn how to be a regular little girl again? The child was quiet for a long time. Then, I want to see the world. Really see it. Not just pretend I can't. But I don't want anyone else to get hurt because of me. Denise closed her eyes, feeling the weight of an impossible choice settling on her shoulders. Help this child reclaim her life and potentially put them both in mortal danger. Or become another conspirator in keeping a 10-year-old trapped in false disability. But as she held Lana close, feeling the child's trust and desperate hope, Denise knew there was really no choice at all. Then we'll figure out a way to keep you safe and set you free. I promise. Outside the window, a shadow moved across the yard. Too large to be Bobby the groundskeeper. Too deliberate to be a wandering stranger. Someone was watching the house. And Denise had the sinking feeling that her arrival had triggered something that could no longer be stopped. Denise woke to the sound of raised voices from the first floor. She'd barely slept after Charlotte's threats, and every shadow outside the window had made her heart race. Now, at 6:30 a.m., Harrison Sterling was shouting at someone in his study. She dressed quickly in dark jeans and a bright yellow sweater, then crept down the main staircase. The study door was closed, but voices carried through the heavy wood. I don't care what it costs, Detective Kumar. I want to know who's been asking questions about my family. Harrison's voice was strained, desperate. Someone called the medical board yesterday, inquiring about Lana's case files. Someone who knew enough to ask specific questions. Denise's blood froze. The medical board. Someone was investigating Lana's condition. Mr. Sterling, with respect, your daughter's blindness is well documented. Multiple specialists have confirmed the diagnosis. What exactly are you worried about? The second voice was calm, professional. Detective Kumar sounded like a man who'd heard every story and believed very few. I'm worried about people who don't understand the complexities of our situation. People who might think they're helping but are actually putting my family in danger. What kind of danger? A long pause. Denise pressed closer to the door. The kind that comes from reopening old wounds. From asking questions about things that are better left buried. Are we talking about your first wife's murder? Another pause. Longer this time. Rebecca's death was solved. The perpetrator was identified. Case closed. Identified but never prosecuted. Antonio Rossetti disappeared before we could bring charges. Your daughter was the only witness, and she was declared too traumatized and disabled to testify. She was 5 years old and blind. What kind of testimony could she have given? Detective Kumar's voice sharpened. The kind that might have put a killer behind bars instead of letting him walk free. But I suppose that wasn't convenient for your media empire. Detective, I think this conversation is over. Actually, Mr. Sterling, it's just getting started. We've had reports that your daughter might not be as disabled as everyone believes. That certain household staff have noticed inconsistencies. Footsteps moved toward the door. Denise scrambled up the stairs, her heart pounding. She made it to the second-floor landing just as the study door opened. Find whoever's spreading these rumors, detective. before they cause irreparable harm to my family, or before they expose the truth? The front door slammed shut with enough force to rattle the windows. An hour later, in the kitchen, Denise found Mrs. Patterson in the kitchen, aggressively scrubbing an already spotless counter. The older woman's face was flushed, her movements jerky with barely controlled anger. "Rough morning," Denise ventured, pouring herself coffee from the expensive machine that probably cost more than her car. Police asking questions. Reporters calling. All because some people can't mind their own business. Mrs. Patterson threw the sponge into the sink with unnecessary force. 20 years I've worked for this family. 20 years of loyalty and discretion. And now strangers think they know better. What kind of questions are the police asking? Mrs. Patterson's eyes narrowed. The kind that get good people hurt. The kind that destroy families. She dried her hands on a kitchen towel, then turned to face Denise directly. "I know what you think you saw yesterday. In the nursery. With Miss Lana and the birds." Denise kept her expression neutral. "I'm not sure what you mean. Don't play games with me, girl. I've seen that look before. The same look Mrs. Chen had. The same look that got her." Mrs. Patterson stopped abruptly. "Got her what?" "Nothing. Mrs. Chen left for personal reasons. Family emergency." But Mrs. Patterson's hands were shaking now, and Denise noticed something she'd missed before. The older woman kept glancing toward the back door, as if expecting someone to burst through at any moment. "Mrs. Patterson, are you afraid of something?" "I'm afraid of people who don't understand how dangerous the truth can be. I'm afraid of bleeding hearts who think they're saving children when they're actually signing death warrants." The kitchen door swung open, and Bobby the groundskeeper entered, his weathered face grim. He was a man in his 60s, built like a tree trunk, with hands that spoke of decades of manual labor. "Mrs. P, we got a problem. Found fresh tire tracks by the east gate. Someone's been watching the house." Mrs. Patterson's face went white. "How fresh?" "From last night. Deep treads. Expensive tires. Not some random kid or nosy neighbor." Denise's coffee cup rattled against the saucer as she set it down. The shadow she'd seen from Lana's window. Someone had been out there. "Call Mr. Sterling," Mrs. Patterson ordered. "Tell him to activate the security protocol." Bobby nodded and left through the back door. Mrs. Patterson turned to Denise, her expression desperate now rather than angry. "Listen to me very carefully. There are things about this family you don't understand. Things that happened before you arrived. Miss Lana's condition isn't just medical. It's protective. And if certain people find out, she can see." "What people?" "Antonio Rossetti." Mrs. Patterson stepped backward as if slapped. "Who told you that name?" "Charlotte. Last night." She explained about Rebecca's murder, about why Lana needs to stay blind. "Charlotte told you?" Mrs. Patterson's voice rose to nearly a shriek. "That woman has no idea what she's talking about. She wasn't here. She doesn't know what really happened that night." "Then tell me what really happened." Mrs. Patterson looked around the kitchen as if the walls might have ears, then motioned for Denise to follow her. They went through the pantry into a small office behind the kitchen. Mrs. Patterson closed the door and turned on a radio, classical music filling the space. "You want the truth? The real truth?" Mrs. Patterson's voice was barely above a whisper. "Antonio Rossetti didn't kill Rebecca Sterling." Denise felt the world tilt. "What?" "Oh, he was here that night. Him and his associate. They came to threaten Mr. Sterling about the newspaper stories. But Rebecca was already dead when they arrived." "Then who killed her?" Mrs. Patterson's hands twisted together. "I found the body. I was working late, cleaning the silver service in the dining room. I heard a noise from the study. Went to investigate. Found Mrs. Rebecca on the floor, blood everywhere. And standing over her." She stopped, unable to continue. Who was standing over her? Dr. Phillips. The name hit Denise like a physical blow. Dr. Phillips. The family physician who had been treating Lana for years. who knew she could see but helped maintain the fiction of her blindness. Dr. Phillips killed Rebecca? He was Mr. Sterling's business partner back then. They owned the newspaper together. But Dr. Phillips had been skimming money from the company accounts. Rebecca found out. She was going to expose him, ruin his medical practice, send him to prison. Denise's mind raced. So he killed her to keep her quiet. When Rossetti and his men arrived 15 minutes later, they found Mr. Sterling cradling his dead wife. Dr. Phillips had already cleaned up and left through the back entrance. Rossetti assumed one of his rivals had beaten him to the punch. And Harrison let Rossetti think he was responsible? What choice did he have? If he accused Dr. Phillips, it would mean admitting Rebecca was killed over business corruption. It would destroy the newspaper, ruin his reputation, and still wouldn't bring Rebecca back. At least with Rossetti as the suspected killer, there was a clear external threat. Something that justified protecting Lana. The pieces were falling into place, but they formed a picture even more horrifying than Denise had imagined. Lana saw Dr. Phillips kill her mother. She saw everything. The argument, the struggle, the murder, and Dr. Phillips saw her watching from the stairs. The blindness. It wasn't trauma from seeing violence. It was fear. Pure, instinctive fear. A 5-year-old child who knew that the man who killed her mother was still in the house, still had access to her, could come back any time he wanted. Denise felt sick. And he's been her doctor ever since. Now you understand why this family is so desperate to maintain the fiction. It's not just about protecting Lana from some distant mob boss. It's about protecting her from the man who comes to this house every week, who examines her, who has complete access to her medical records and her daily routine. Why haven't you gone to the police? Mrs. Patterson laughed bitterly. With what proof? Dr. Phillips cleaned up perfectly. No fingerprints, no witnesses except a traumatized child who went blind from shock. And he spent 5 years positioning himself as Lana's devoted physician. Who would believe he killed her mother? Lana would believe it. She could testify. A child whose mental state has been questioned for years? Whose own family describes her as damaged and fragile? Dr. Phillips would claim her trauma has created false memories. That her disability makes her an unreliable witness. Footsteps echoed in the kitchen beyond the office door. Mrs. Patterson grabbed Denise's arm. He comes here every Thursday morning for Lana's weekly examination. That's today. In 1 hour. If he suspects that Lana can see, if he thinks she's a threat. The kitchen door opened. Denise heard Charlotte's voice calling for Mrs. Patterson. Promise me, Mrs. Patterson whispered desperately. Promise me you won't do anything to put that child in danger. Dr. Phillips has killed once to protect his secrets. He won't hesitate to kill again. Mrs. Patterson? Where are you? Charlotte's voice was getting closer. I promise, Denise whispered back. But even as she said the words, she knew she was lying. Because Dr. Phillips wasn't just coming for a routine examination. He was coming to assess whether Lana was still safely trapped in her false blindness. And if he determined she wasn't, this could very well be the last day Lana Sterling lived to see. Dr. Phillips arrived precisely on schedule, his black Mercedes pulling up the circular drive like a hearse coming for the dead. Denise watched from the second-floor window as he stepped out, his silver hair gleaming in the autumn sunlight. He looked like every trusted family physician in every medical drama. Distinguished, reliable, safe. The perfect mask for a killer. He carried his medical bag in one hand and a small wrapped present in the other. The gift made Denise's stomach turn. What kind of monster brought presents to the child whose mother he'd murdered? Miss Stanton. Mrs. Patterson appeared beside her at the window. Dr. Phillips likes his privacy during examinations. The family respects his professional judgment completely. The message was clear. Stay away. Don't interfere. Let whatever happens happen. But Denise had made a different kind of promise to Lana. One that mattered more than her own safety. Where does he examine her? The 4th-floor medical room. It's soundproofed for Lana's comfort. She sometimes becomes agitated during procedures. Soundproofed. How convenient. Denise waited until Mrs. Patterson headed downstairs to greet the doctor, then moved quickly to the 4th floor. The medical room was at the end of the hall, past Lana's bedroom. She could hear voices inside, muffled but urgent. The door was closed, but there was a small storage closet directly across the hall. Denise slipped inside, leaving the door open just a crack. From here, she could see the medical room door and hear everything happening inside. "Hello, my dear Lana. How are we feeling today?" Dr. Phillips's voice was warm, grandfatherly. The voice of a man who'd spent decades perfecting bedside manner. "I'm fine, Dr. Phillips." Lana's voice was small, careful. The voice of a child who'd learned to be afraid. "I brought you something special. A new Braille book. The story of a little girl who goes on adventures even though she can't see them." Denise heard the rustle of wrapping paper. The irony was sickening. A book about a blind girl for a child pretending to be blind to stay alive. "Thank you. It's very thoughtful. Now, let's have our usual examination. We need to check your eyes, make sure nothing has changed." Denise pressed closer to the crack in the closet door. This was it. The moment that would determine whether Dr. Phillips suspected anything. "Look straight ahead for me, Lana." That's right. She could hear the click of a pen light being turned on. Good. No reaction to light stimulus. Pupils remain fixed and dilated. Dr. Phillips was speaking for the benefit of some recording device. Creating medical records that supported the blindness fiction. Optic nerve response remains absent. But then his voice changed, became quieter, more personal. "You know, Lana, I've been hearing some concerning things. Mrs. Patterson tells me the new maid has been asking questions about your condition. Denise is nice. She reads to me sometimes. I'm sure she is nice. But sometimes nice people can be dangerous without meaning to be. They ask questions that are better left unanswered. They try to help in ways that actually cause harm." Denise could hear the threat beneath the gentle words. "I understand there was an incident with some birds yesterday. You described them in ways that might make people think you could see them." Silence. Lana was smart enough to know this was dangerous territory. "Lana, I need you to remember something very important. Your blindness protects you. It keeps you safe from people who might want to hurt you. People like the man who hurt your mother." "I remember." "Good. But I'm worried that you might be getting confused. That you might be starting to think you can see things. That would be very dangerous for you. And for anyone who encouraged such thinking." The threat was crystal clear now. Not just to Lana, but to Denise as well. "Now, I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to test your reactions in a new way." Denise heard the sound of something being unwrapped. Then Lana's sharp intake of breath. "Do you know what this is, Lana?" Silence. "It's a photograph. A photograph of your mother on the night she died. Would you like me to describe it to you?" Denise's hands clenched into fists. The monster was torturing a 10-year-old child with crime scene photos. She's lying on the study floor. There's blood on her white dress. Her eyes are open, staring at nothing. She looks very peaceful, considering. "Please stop." Lana's voice was barely audible. "I took this photograph, you know, right after the accident. I wanted to remember her exactly as she was in that final moment." He was confessing. Actually confessing to murder, knowing that Lana couldn't tell anyone without revealing she could see the photograph. "Your mother was a very curious woman, Lana. Always asking questions. Always poking into things that weren't her business. It's a dangerous trait. One that runs in families sometimes. I'm not curious. I just want to be left alone. I'm sure you do. But sometimes being left alone isn't enough. Sometimes people around us make choices that force our hand." Denise heard footsteps moving across the room. Dr. Phillips was pacing now, agitated. The new maid, for instance. She's been making phone calls. To the medical board. To former colleagues. asking very specific questions about conversion disorders and psychological blindness. Denise's blood turned to ice. She hadn't made any phone calls, but someone had. Someone who knew enough about Lana's condition to ask the right questions. I think Miss Stanton might be more than just a maid, Lana. I think she might be someone with medical training. Someone who recognizes signs that others have missed. A new voice cut through the room like a blade. You're absolutely right, Doctor. Denise's breath caught. That wasn't Lana's voice. It was Charlotte's. Mrs. Sterling. I wasn't expecting you. I'm sure you weren't. Just like you weren't expecting me to do a background check on our new employee. Footsteps. Charlotte was moving into the room. It seems Denise Stanton isn't just any maid. She's a former pediatric nurse. Lost her license for whistleblowing against medical corruption. The kind of person who might recognize psychological blindness when she sees it. That's concerning. Very concerning. Especially since she's been spending time with Lana. Building trust. Asking questions. Denise realized with growing horror that Charlotte wasn't protecting her. She was exposing her. Setting her up. What do you suggest we do? Dr. Phillips asked. The same thing we did with Mrs. Chen. Remove the threat before it becomes unmanageable. Mrs. Chen left voluntarily after we explained the situation. Charlotte's laugh was cold. Mrs. Chen left because she understood what would happen if she didn't. But I don't think Miss Stanton is going to be as reasonable. Then we need to make the choice for her. Exactly. But first, we need to make sure Lana understands the consequences of her cooperation. Denise heard the sound of a chair being moved closer to Lana. Lana, sweetheart, I need you to listen very carefully. Miss Stanton has been filling your head with dangerous ideas. Ideas about therapy and healing and living a normal life. She just wants to help me. She wants to destroy you. And everyone who's tried to protect you. Charlotte's voice was sharp now, losing its fake sweetness. If Miss Stanton convinces anyone that you can see, do you know what will happen? The bad men will come back. Worse than that. The police will want you to testify about what you saw the night your mother died. They'll put you in courtrooms full of strangers. They'll make you describe the blood and the screaming and the terror over and over again until it drives you insane. Lana was crying now. Quiet, desperate sobs. And when it's all over, when you've been traumatized beyond repair, the real killer will still be free. Because no one will believe the testimony of a damaged little girl. Please don't make me talk about it. I won't have to, if you help us solve the Miss Stanton problem. Dr. Phillips spoke up. What exactly are you proposing, Mrs. Sterling? Miss Stanton cares about Lana. She thinks she's saving her. So we use that against her. How? We create a medical emergency. Something that requires immediate intervention. Something that only a trained nurse would be equipped to handle. Denise's heart stopped. They were going to hurt Lana to trap her. Lana will have an allergic reaction during her examination. Severe respiratory distress. Life-threatening. Miss Stanton will rush in to help, revealing her medical training and proving she's been lying about her qualifications. And then we have justification for everything that happens next. She's a fraud who infiltrated our home under false pretenses, who endangered a disabled child with her amateur medical theories. Whatever happens to her after that is simply tragic but necessary. Dr. Phillips was quiet for a long moment. Then, what kind of allergic reaction? Epinephrine overdose. Simulate anaphylactic shock. You can reverse it once Miss Stanton exposes herself. And if she doesn't take the bait? If she doesn't try to help? Then Lana dies, and we blame Miss Stanton for causing the stress that triggered the reaction. Either way, our problem is solved. Denise realized she was trapped. If she rushed in to help Lana, she'd expose herself and likely sign both their death warrants. If she didn't, Lana would die. But there was a third option. One that Charlotte and Dr. Phillips hadn't considered. The soundproof room worked both ways. They couldn't hear what was happening in the hallway any more than people in the hallway could hear them. Denise slipped out of the closet and moved quickly toward the stairs. She had maybe 5 minutes before they put their plan into action. Time to call in reinforcements who could end this nightmare once and for all, even if it meant exposing every secret the Sterling family had buried. Denise's fingers shook as she dialed 911 from the kitchen phone, her voice barely controlled as she whispered the address and requested immediate police response for a child in danger. She hung up just as footsteps echoed from the main staircase. Harrison Sterling was coming downstairs, probably summoned by Charlotte for their twisted plan. She had maybe 3 minutes before they started the medical emergency. 3 minutes to find evidence that could save Lana and expose the truth about Rebecca Sterling's murder. Dr. Phillips had been Rebecca's killer and Lana's doctor for 5 years. He would have kept trophies, records, something that proved his connection to the crime. And if he was arrogant enough to show Lana crime scene photos, he was arrogant enough to keep evidence close. Denise raced to the study where Harrison had been shouting at Detective Kumar earlier. The massive desk dominated the room, its drawers locked, but the bookshelf behind it held something more promising. Medical journals, files, and a small locked cabinet that looked out of place among the leather-bound volumes. She grabbed a letter opener from the desk and worked at the cabinet lock. It snapped open just as voices erupted from upstairs. Charlotte, calling for Harrison. Dr. Phillips, his voice urgent and medical. Mr. Sterling. Emergency in the medical room. Lana's having some kind of reaction. Inside the cabinet, Denise found a nightmare. Photographs of Rebecca Sterling's crime scene, far more detailed than any police would take. These were personal, intimate, the work of someone who wanted to remember every detail of his handiwork. But underneath the photos was something even more damning. A medical journal, handwritten in Dr. Phillips's precise script. The final entry was dated 5 years ago, the night Rebecca died. October 17, 2019. The Rebecca Sterling situation has been resolved. Subject discovered embezzlement evidence despite careful concealment. Confrontation became physical when subject threatened exposure. Fatal head trauma resulted from impact with desk corner during struggle. Scene staged to suggest home invasion. Sterling child witnessed incident from staircase but developed immediate conversion blindness from trauma. Fortuitous development ensures no reliable witness testimony. Will monitor child's condition and maintain therapeutic relationship to ensure continued psychological suppression of visual function. The monster had written down his crime like a medical case study. And the date. October 17th. Today was the 5-year anniversary of Rebecca's murder. Footsteps pounded down the stairs. Harrison's voice panicked. What's happening? Is she breathing? Severe allergic reaction, Dr. Phillips called back. I need my emergency kit from the car. Call an ambulance. Denise heard the front door slam as Harrison ran outside. This was it. The moment they'd try to kill Lana and frame her for it. She grabbed the journal and photos, then ran for the back staircase that led directly to the 4th floor. She could hear Charlotte's voice from the medical room, fake panic perfectly performed. Lana! Lana, stay with me. Where's that maid? Someone find Denise. Denise burst through the medical room door to find a scene from her worst nightmares. Lana lay on the examination table, her face pale and her breathing shallow. Dr. Phillips stood over her with a syringe, preparing to inject something into her foreline. Stop! Denise shouted. Get away from her! Dr. Phillips turned, his grandfatherly mask finally slipping to reveal the cold killer beneath. Miss Stanton. How convenient. Just in time to witness a tragic accident. I know what you did. I found your journal. Your photographs. I know you killed Rebecca Sterling. Charlotte stepped between Denise and the examination table. You're hysterical. Dr. Phillips is trying to save Lana's life, and you're interfering with medical treatment. He's trying to murder her, just like he murdered her mother. Dr. Phillips raised the syringe. Acute allergic reactions can be unpredictable. Sometimes even emergency intervention fails. But Lana's voice cut through the room, stronger than Denise had ever heard it. I remember everything. All 3 adults froze. Lana sat up on the examination table, her pale blue eyes focused directly on Dr. Phillips's face. I remember you arguing with Mommy in Daddy's study. I remember you pushing her. I remember her head hitting the corner of the desk. Lana's voice was steady now, no longer the whisper of a terrified child. And I remember you looking up and seeing me on the stairs. Dr. Phillips lowered the syringe, his face going white. Lana, you're confused. The trauma has created false memories. You said I was blind, but I could see you clean up the blood. I could see you arrange Mommy's body to look like someone else hurt her. I could see you wash your hands in the bathroom sink. This is impossible, Charlotte breathed. She's been blind for 5 years. No, I haven't. Lana turned those clear eyes toward Charlotte. I've been pretending because Dr. Phillips said the bad men would come back if anyone knew I could see. But there never were any bad men, were there? Just him. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Dr. Phillips grabbed the syringe again, his composure completely shattered. You little brat. Do you have any idea what you've cost me? 5 years of maintaining this charade. 5 years of pretending to care about your welfare. He lunged toward Lana, but Denise threw herself between them. The syringe caught her in the shoulder, and fire exploded through her arm. Epinephrine overdose, she gasped, recognizing the symptoms immediately. Charlotte, call 911. Now. But Charlotte was backing toward the door, her face calculating. Actually, this works out perfectly. The maid attacked Dr. Phillips, injected herself accidentally during the struggle. Tragic misunderstanding. The sirens were louder now, almost at the house. Dr. Phillips pulled out a second syringe. One more dose should finish what the first started. And then young Lana will have a convenient relapse of her blindness. Trauma-induced. Perfectly believable. But the door burst open before he could move. Detective Kumar filled the doorway, his weapon drawn, backed by 2 uniformed officers. Boston Police. Nobody move. Dr. Phillips spun toward the detective, the syringe still in his hand. Officer, thank God you're here. This woman attacked me and injured herself. The child is having a medical emergency. Is that so? Detective Kumar's eyes took in the scene. Denise collapsed against the wall, Lana sitting up alert and focused, Charlotte pressed against the far wall. Because I just got a very interesting phone call from a little girl who said she could see everything happening in this room. Lana had called the police herself. Somehow, during the chaos, she'd managed to get to a phone and tell them exactly what was happening. That's impossible, Dr. Phillips stammered. She's been blind since birth. I have 5 years of medical records proving it. Records you falsified, Denise managed to say through the pain. Check his office. Check his car. He's got photographs of Rebecca Sterling's murder scene. A journal where he confessed to killing her. Detective Kumar nodded to one of the officers, who immediately moved to search Dr. Phillips. The second officer went to Charlotte, who was trying to edge toward the window. Mrs. Sterling, I'm going to need you to stay right where you are. This is insane, Charlotte protested. I'm the victim here. That woman has been filling my stepdaughter's head with delusions, making her think she can see when she clearly can't. But Lana slid off the examination table and walked directly to Detective Kumar, her movements sure and confident. Detective Kumar? My name is Lana Sterling. I'm 10 years old, and I can see perfectly. 5 years ago, I watched Dr. Phillips murder my mother Rebecca in my father's study. He's been keeping me quiet by threatening to kill me if I ever told anyone I could see what he did. The detective knelt to Lana's eye level. Are you sure about this, honey? This is a very serious accusation. I'm sure. And I can prove it. Lana pointed toward Dr. Phillips's medical bag. In the side pocket, he has photographs of my mother's dead body. He showed them to me today to remind me what happens to people who don't keep secrets. One of the officers searched the bag and pulled out a manila envelope. His face went grim as he looked inside. Jesus Christ. These are crime scene photos. But they're not official. These are personal. Dr. Phillips made one last desperate attempt to maintain control. The child is delusional. She's been blind since birth. I have documentation from every major hospital in Boston. Documentation you created, Denise said, her voice getting stronger as the epinephrine began to metabolize. You've been treating her for 5 years. You had complete control over her medical records. You could make them say anything you wanted. Detective Kumar stood, his expression hard. Dr. Phillips, you're under arrest for the murder of Rebecca Sterling and the attempted murder of Denise Stanton. You have the right to remain silent. As the handcuffs clicked into place, Dr. Phillips's mask finally fell away completely. That woman ruined everything. She was going to destroy my practice, my reputation, my life. All over some missing money that I fully intended to pay back. So you killed her. It was an accident. I only meant to stop her from leaving, to make her listen to reason. When she fell and hit her head, I thought my life was over. But then I realized I could make it look like a robbery gone wrong. And you've been covering it up ever since. The child was traumatized into blindness. Seemed like divine intervention. No witness, no testimony, no prosecution. I thought I could maintain the fiction indefinitely. Charlotte finally spoke up from her position against the wall. I want a lawyer. I had nothing to do with Rebecca's death. I didn't even meet Harrison until 6 months later. But you knew, Detective Kumar said. You knew Lana could see, and you helped Dr. Phillips maintain the cover-up. I was protecting my family. Protecting my stepdaughter from having to relive trauma. You were protecting yourself from having your husband's fortune investigated for embezzlement connections. As the police led Dr. Phillips and Charlotte away, Harrison Sterling appeared in the doorway. His face was ashen, his perfect composure finally cracked. Lana! His voice was broken. Is it true? Can you really see? Lana ran to her father, and for the first time in 5 years, she looked directly into his eyes when she spoke. I can see everything, Daddy. And I forgive you for being scared. But I don't want to be scared anymore. Harrison collapsed to his knees, pulling his daughter into his arms, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry I let this happen to you. And in that moment, watching a father and daughter finally see each other clearly, Denise knew that some truths were worth every risk. The hospital room was nothing like the sterile medical space at the Sterling mansion. Bright yellow walls displayed cheerful murals of animals and rainbows. Real sunlight streamed through windows that Lana could actually admit to seeing. For the first time in 5 years, she didn't have to pretend the world was dark. Denise sat in the chair beside Lana's bed, her left arm in a sling from the epinephrine injection. The doctors had kept them both overnight for observation, but the real healing was just beginning. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the hospital's chief pediatric psychiatrist, had spent the morning gently assessing Lana's mental state. The good news, Dr. Martinez told Harrison, who hadn't left the hospital since the arrests, is that Lana shows remarkable resilience. Yes, she's been through severe trauma, but her ability to maintain her true self underneath the protective blindness suggests a very strong psychological foundation. Harrison looked like he'd aged 10 years in 24 hours. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his silver hair disheveled. What about the conversion disorder? The psychological blindness she experienced initially? That was a natural protective response to overwhelming trauma. A 5-year-old mind couldn't process witnessing her mother's murder, so it shut down her vision temporarily. But when her sight returned naturally around age 7, she made a conscious choice to continue the pretense for survival. She's been carrying this alone for 3 years, Harrison whispered. Dr. Martinez nodded. Children are incredibly adaptive. Lana created a survival strategy that worked. Now we need to help her transition to a life where she doesn't need that protection anymore. Through the window, Denise could see news vans gathering in the hospital parking lot. The story had broken that morning. Billionaire's daughter faked blindness to survive murder cover-up. The headlines were sensational, but at least they were finally truthful. Daddy! Lana's voice was stronger today, more confident. Can we go home soon? I want to see my room with the lights on. Harrison's eyes filled with tears again. He'd been crying on and off since yesterday, years of suppressed emotion finally breaking free. Of course, sweetheart. We can redecorate however you want. Paint the walls any color you like. I want yellow. Like this room. Yellow makes me happy. Yellow it is. Detective Kumar appeared in the doorway, looking less official in civilian clothes. Hope I'm not interrupting. Thought you'd want to know that Dr. Phillips confessed to everything last night. Rebecca's murder, the cover-up, threatening Lana, attempting to kill Miss Stanton. He's looking at life without parole. What about Charlotte? Harrison asked. Accessory after the fact, conspiracy, child endangerment. Her lawyer's already talking plea bargain, but she's looking at significant prison time. Denise felt a weight lift from her shoulders. And Mrs. Patterson? Clean. Turns out she genuinely believed she was protecting Lana from mob retaliation. Dr. Phillips had convinced her that Rossetti was still a threat. She had no idea he was the real killer. So it's really over, Lana said quietly. It's over, sweetheart. Detective Kumar smiled at her. You're safe now. And you're a very brave little girl for finally telling the truth. Miss Denise helped me be brave. All eyes turned to Denise, who felt suddenly self-conscious. I just listened. Lana did all the hard work. You did more than listen, Harrison said. You risked your life for my daughter. For a child you barely knew. I knew enough. I knew she deserved better than living in fear. Dr. Martinez checked her watch. I think that's enough excitement for now. Lana needs rest, and you all need time to process everything that's happened. As the doctor and detective left, Harrison turned to Denise with an expression she couldn't quite read. I owe you an apology. And an explanation. You don't owe me anything, Mr. Sterling. Yes, I do. And please, call me Harrison. He pulled a chair closer to Lana's bed. I want you both to understand why I made the choices I did. Why I let this charade continue for so long. Lana reached for her father's hand. You were scared. I was terrified. Not just of external threats, but of losing you. You were all I had left of your mother. Harrison's voice cracked. When Dr. Phillips told me that your blindness was permanent, that pushing you to see again might cause complete psychological breakdown, I believed him. He was the expert. He was supposed to be helping you. But you must have suspected something, Denise said gently. Children can't fake blindness perfectly for years. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. There were signs. Little things. The way you moved through familiar spaces too confidently. How you always knew when I was sad even when I thought I was hiding it well. He looked at Lana. I told myself I was imagining things. That hoping you could see was just wishful thinking. I wanted to tell you so many times, Lana admitted. Especially when you would sit by my bed and cry when you thought I was sleeping. I could see your tears, and I wanted to wipe them away. Why didn't you? Because Dr. Phillips said if anyone found out I could see, the bad men would come back and kill you too. I couldn't let that happen. Harrison pulled Lana into his arms, holding her tight. My brave, brilliant girl. You protected me when I should have been protecting you. We protected each other, Lana said simply. Denise felt tears stinging her own eyes. This was what she'd fought for. This moment of truth and connection between a father and daughter who'd been kept apart by lies and fear. What happens now? She asked. Now we learn how to be a real family, Harrison said. Lana starts therapy with Dr. Martinez. We figure out how to live honestly. And I try to make up for 5 years of failing my daughter. You didn't fail me, Daddy. You kept me safe the only way you knew how. But Miss Denise found a better way. Lana turned to Denise, her pale blue eyes bright with something that had been missing for years. Hope. Will you stay? Will you help us figure out how to be normal? The question hit Denise harder than she'd expected. Stay. In Boston. With this family that had already been through so much. It would mean giving up her plans to move away, start fresh somewhere else. It would mean staying in a city where her nursing career had been destroyed, where people knew her as the whistleblower who'd lost everything. But looking at Lana's face, seeing the trust and affection there, Denise realized she'd already made her choice. I'd like that very much. Really? You'll stay and be my friend. I'll stay and be whatever you need me to be. Harrison cleared his throat. Actually, I have a proposition. For both of you. He looked nervous, uncertain. I've been thinking about my newspaper, Sterling Media. We've spent too many years protecting the wrong people, burying the wrong stories. Maybe it's time we started exposing the truth instead of hiding from it. What are you suggesting? Denise asked. I'm suggesting we create an investigative unit focused on medical corruption, institutional cover-ups, cases where powerful people abuse vulnerable patients. Harrison's voice grew stronger as he spoke. With your medical background and your experience fighting corrupt systems, you'd be perfect to head it up. You want me to be a journalist? I want you to be what you've always been. Someone who fights for people who can't fight for themselves. Someone who refuses to stay quiet when she sees injustice. Denise felt something stirring in her chest. Purpose. The same feeling she'd had as a nurse, but broader. More powerful. What about my nursing license? We'll fight to get it reinstated. With Dr. Phillips's confession about his other corrupt activities, your whistleblowing claims will be vindicated. The medical board will have to reconsider. And if they don't, then we'll expose them too. Show the world how good people get punished for doing the right thing. Lana squeezed Denise's hand. Please say yes. We need you. Looking at this father and daughter who'd found each other again, who'd survived years of lies and fear and were ready to build something better, Denise felt her old life finally letting go. Yes, she said. I'll stay. I'll help. We'll figure it out together. Together, Lana agreed, then paused. But can we have one rule? No more secrets. No more pretending. Just truth from now on. Just truth, Harrison promised. Just truth, Denise echoed. As the afternoon sun streamed through the hospital windows, illuminating Lana's face as she smiled with genuine joy for the first time in 5 years, Denise realized that sometimes the truth didn't just set you free. Sometimes it gave you a family. But even as they made their promises and planned their future, none of them noticed the figure in the parking lot below. Someone who'd been watching the hospital. Someone who'd been waiting for the right moment to make contact. Someone who had their own secrets about the Sterling family. Secrets that could change everything they thought they knew about Rebecca's murder and the night that had torn their lives apart. The healing had begun, but the story was far from over. The house felt different now. Lighter. Lana had insisted they leave every curtain open, every light on. For the first time in 5 years, the Sterling mansion was truly illuminated. Mrs. Patterson moved through the rooms with obvious relief, no longer carrying the weight of terrible secrets. Denise was in the kitchen making breakfast when the doorbell rang. Through the window, she could see a woman in her 30s standing on the front steps. Professional clothes, nervous posture, clutching a manila envelope like her life depended on it. I'll get it, Harrison called from the hallway. Lana was with him, practically glued to his side since they'd come home from the hospital. She was still adjusting to moving freely through the house, no longer pretending to need guidance. Denise heard the front door open, then Harrison's sharp intake of breath. Rebecca! The name hit the kitchen like a physical blow. Denise dropped the spatula she'd been holding. Rebecca was dead. They'd seen crime scene photos. Dr. Phillips had confessed to her murder. Hello, Harrison. The woman's voice was shaky, emotional. I know this is a shock. I know you think I'm dead. Denise crept toward the kitchen door, her mind reeling. Lana's voice, small and confused. Mommy? But you're supposed to be dead. Oh, sweetheart. My beautiful baby girl. The woman's voice broke. I've missed you so much. I've wanted to come back every single day for 5 years. Denise peered around the corner and saw them in the foyer. The woman looked exactly like the Rebecca from the early family photos. Same dark hair, same warm brown eyes, same delicate features. But older, thinner, with the haunted look of someone who'd been running for years. This is impossible, Harrison breathed. I saw your body. I held you. You were dead. No, I wasn't. Dr. Phillips drugged me, staged my death, but I wasn't actually dead. Rebecca's hands shook as she spoke. I woke up in the morgue, Harrison. Can you imagine? Waking up in a body bag, not knowing how long I'd been unconscious, not knowing if you and Lana were safe. Lana stepped closer to the woman claiming to be her mother. You look like Mommy. But Mommy died. I saw Dr. Phillips kill her. Rebecca knelt to Lana's eye level. What you saw was Dr. Phillips injecting me with a paralytic drug. Something that slowed my heart rate and breathing so much that I appeared dead. He needed everyone to believe I was gone so I couldn't expose his embezzlement. But the blood, Lana whispered. There was so much blood. Fake blood. Medical grade. Dr. Phillips had it all planned. Rebecca's voice was bitter. He knew about the newspaper investigation into city corruption. He knew I'd discovered his financial crimes. So he created an elaborate death scene to make me disappear. Harrison was backing away slowly, his face pale. This doesn't make sense. If you were alive, why didn't you come back? Why let us think you were dead for 5 years? Rebecca stood, her expression hardening. Because I couldn't trust anyone. Dr. Phillips wasn't working alone, Harrison. Someone in your inner circle helped him. Someone with access to our home, our schedules, our private information. Who? I've spent 5 years trying to figure that out. 5 years hiding, investigating, gathering evidence. Rebecca opened the manila envelope and pulled out photographs. I know you're going to find this hard to believe. She handed Harrison a photograph. Denise couldn't see it clearly from her position, but she watched Harrison's face go from confusion to shock to something approaching horror. That's not possible. It's very possible. Because the person who helped Dr. Phillips fake my death, who provided him with inside information about when you'd be in meetings, when the house would be empty, when he could stage the scene safely. Rebecca's voice turned venomous. Was Mrs. Patterson. The coffee mug Mrs. Patterson had been carrying crashed to the floor behind Denise. The older woman stood in the kitchen doorway, her face white as paper. That's a lie, Mrs. Patterson whispered. A vicious, horrible lie. Rebecca turned toward the sound. Hello, Evelyn. Still playing the devoted housekeeper. Mrs. Rebecca, you have to understand. He said he was trying to help you. That you were having a nervous breakdown. That the stress of the investigation was making you paranoid and dangerous. So you helped him drug me? Helped him stage my death. I thought it was a medical intervention. Dr. Phillips said you needed to be committed for psychiatric treatment, but that you'd resist if you knew. He said the fake death scenario would allow him to get you help without a public scandal. Harrison was staring at the photograph in his hands. This shows you helping Dr. Phillips move Rebecca's body to his car. You knew she wasn't dead. I thought she was sedated. I thought we were taking her to a private clinic. Mrs. Patterson's voice rose to a near shriek. When I found out she'd really died at the facility, I was devastated. I blamed myself for months. She didn't die at any facility, Rebecca said coldly. I escaped from Dr. Phillips that same night. But not before I heard him talking to his real partner. Not before I learned who was really behind the embezzlement scheme. She pulled out another photograph. This one showed Dr. Phillips shaking hands with someone Denise couldn't quite see. The person who stole money from Sterling Media wasn't just Dr. Phillips. He was the front man. The actual embezzler was someone with direct access to company accounts. Someone Harrison trusted completely. Harrison looked at the photo and staggered backward. No. Absolutely not. Your business manager, Harrison. Your trusted financial advisor. The man who's been handling Sterling Media's accounts for 15 years. Rebecca's voice was like a blade. Thomas Hartwell. The name exploded through the room like a bomb. Denise knew that name. Thomas Hartwell was Harrison's oldest friend, his college roommate, the man who'd been best man at his wedding to Rebecca. Thomas would never. Harrison started. Thomas embezzled over $3 million from Sterling Media over a 5-year period. When I discovered the discrepancies and started investigating, he panicked. He knew if the newspaper's corruption investigation expanded to include internal financial audits, his theft would be exposed. Mrs. Patterson was crying now, real tears of horror. Mr. Thomas said Mrs. Rebecca was having delusions about money being stolen. He said the stress was making her see conspiracies that didn't exist. So he convinced Dr. Phillips to stage my death, make me disappear before I could expose him. Rebecca's hands clenched into fists. But their plan went wrong when Lana witnessed it. They needed her to stay quiet, so they convinced everyone she was blind from trauma. That still doesn't explain why you stayed away for 5 years, Harrison said, his voice broken. Why you let us think you were dead. Why you let Lana grow up without her mother. Rebecca's composure finally cracked. Because I was terrified. I woke up in a morgue with no idea who I could trust. Dr. Phillips had convinced Mrs. Patterson to help him. Thomas had been my friend too, someone I'd trusted completely. For all I knew, you were part of it. You thought I was trying to kill you? I didn't know what to think. I spent months hiding, watching from a distance, trying to figure out who was really involved. By the time I realized you were innocent, Lana had been declared permanently blind. I knew if I suddenly reappeared, it would raise questions about her condition. Lana had been listening to this exchange with growing distress. Now she stepped forward, her voice steady despite her tears. You chose to stay away. You chose to let me think my mother was dead. You chose to let Daddy blame himself for not protecting you. Rebecca reached toward her daughter. Lana, I was trying to protect you. No, you were protecting yourself. Lana's voice was clearer and stronger than Denise had ever heard it. You could have found a way to come back. You could have trusted Daddy. But you didn't want to take the risk. That's not fair. What's not fair is me spending 5 years thinking I watched my mother die. What's not fair is Daddy crying himself to sleep every night because he thought he failed to save you. What's not fair is me pretending to be blind because I was too scared to tell the truth about what I saw. Harrison moved to stand beside Lana, his hand on her shoulder. Rebecca, I understand why you ran. But the woman I married would never have abandoned her child for 5 years. Not for any reason. I was planning to come back. I just needed more time to make sure it was safe. 5 years. Rebecca. Lana is 10 years old now. She's grown up without her mother because you were too afraid to trust the people who loved you. Rebecca's face crumpled. I know I made mistakes. But I'm here now. We can be a family again. We can go back to the way things were. No, we can't. Lana's voice was final. Because the way things were was built on lies. Dr. Phillips lying about killing you. You lying about being dead. Everyone lying about me being blind. She turned to look at Denise, who was still standing in the kitchen doorway. Miss Denise is the only person who told me the truth. She's the only one who helped me stop pretending. Lana looked back at Rebecca. You're my birth mother, and I'm glad you're alive. But you're not my family anymore. Daddy and Miss Denise are my family. Rebecca's face twisted with pain and rage. This is your fault, she snarled at Denise. You've turned my daughter against me. You've poisoned her mind with lies about how families should work. I've told her the truth, Denise replied quietly. That families are built on trust and protection, not abandonment and secrets. You have no right to judge me. You don't know what I've been through. You're right. I don't know what you've been through, but I know what Lana's been through, and she deserved better from her mother. Rebecca's expression turned vicious. Well, it doesn't matter what any of you think, because I have evidence that will destroy all of you. She reached into her envelope and pulled out more papers. Financial records showing that Harrison knew about Thomas's embezzlement all along. Medical records proving that Lana's blindness was faked with her father's knowledge. Documentation that will send Harrison to prison for fraud, conspiracy, and child abuse. The room went dead silent. I gave you all a chance to welcome me back, to rebuild our family. Since you've chosen to reject me, I'll make sure you lose everything. Rebecca's smile was cold and calculating. The media will have these documents by tonight. By tomorrow morning, Harrison Sterling will be ruined, and Lana will be in state custody. You would destroy your own daughter's life out of spite? I would take back what's mine. And if I can't have my family, then no one can. As Rebecca walked toward the door, Denise realized that the nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. The house that had felt so bright and hopeful just hours earlier now felt like a tomb. Rebecca had left with her threats and her envelope of evidence, promising to destroy everything Harrison and Lana had built together. Mrs. Patterson sat at the kitchen table, her face buried in her hands, consumed by guilt over her unwitting role in the original conspiracy. Lana stood by the living room window, watching the street for reporters who hadn't arrived yet but surely would. Her small frame was rigid with anger and hurt, but Denise could see the fear underneath. Fear that she might lose the only family she had left. Harrison paced the study, his phone pressed to his ear as he spoke in urgent whispers to his lawyer. Every few minutes he would stop and stare at the family photos on his desk, photos that Rebecca's return had turned into evidence of a life built on lies. Denise found herself caught between them all, unsure of her place in this family crisis. She was the outsider who'd stumbled into their world just days ago, but somehow she'd become the person they all looked to for answers. Miss Denise. Lana's voice was small. Are they going to take me away from Daddy? I don't know, sweetheart. But we're going to fight to make sure that doesn't happen. What if the evidence makes Daddy look guilty? What if people think he really did know about the money and about me not being blind? Denise knelt beside Lana's chair. Then we'll tell them the truth. We'll explain exactly what happened and why. Will they believe us? Before Denise could answer, Harrison appeared in the doorway. His face was grim, but there was something determined in his expression that hadn't been there since Rebecca's return. I just spoke with my lawyer. And with Detective Kumar. And with Thomas Hartwell. Thomas! Mrs. Patterson looked up sharply. Is he? He's been arrested. Turns out Rebecca was right about the embezzlement. Thomas confessed everything once the police showed him the evidence she'd gathered. Harrison sat heavily on the couch. $3.2 million over 6 years. He's been using it to cover gambling debts and bad investments. So Rebecca was telling the truth about the money, Denise said. About the money, yes. But not about me knowing. And definitely not about the other evidence she claims to have. Harrison pulled out his phone. I had my IT team run a full audit of our financial systems. Every email, every document, every transaction record. He showed them his phone screen. Thomas was careful. Very careful. He created false authorizations using my digital signature, but the metadata shows they were generated from his computer, not mine. There's no evidence I knew about or approved any of the fraudulent transactions. What about Lana's medical records? Dr. Phillips falsified everything. Every report claiming her blindness was permanent, every consultation note, every treatment recommendation. But he was too thorough. The records are actually too perfect, too consistent. Real medical files have variations, contradictions, multiple opinions. His are like textbook cases written by one person. Lana looked confused. So Rebecca's evidence won't work. Rebecca's evidence will prove that Thomas and Dr. Phillips conspired to steal money and cover up crimes. But it won't prove I was involved, because I wasn't. Harrison's voice strengthened. And it definitely won't prove that I knew you could see, because until 3 days ago, I genuinely believed you were blind. Mrs. Patterson spoke up from the kitchen table. But what about my part in it? I helped Dr. Phillips move her body. That makes me an accessory to kidnapping, doesn't it? You were manipulated, Evelyn. Dr. Phillips convinced you that you were helping Rebecca get medical treatment. That's not a crime, it's victimization. Detective Kumar's voice came from the foyer. Mr. Sterling? I hope you don't mind, but your front door was open. Harrison got up to greet him. Detective, please come in. Any news? Quite a bit, actually. Detective Kumar looked tired but satisfied. We arrested Thomas Hartwell 2 hours ago. He's confessing to everything. The embezzlement, yes, but also conspiracy to fake Rebecca Sterling's death. Conspiracy. Turns out Rebecca wasn't as innocent in all this as she claims. Kumar sat down, pulling out his notebook. Thomas admits that Rebecca knew about the embezzlement scheme. She was blackmailing him. The room went silent. According to Thomas, Rebecca discovered his financial crimes about 6 months before her supposed death. But instead of reporting him or telling you, Mr. Sterling, she demanded a cut. 50% of everything he'd stolen, plus ongoing payments. Denise felt sick. She was extorting him? Thomas says Rebecca threatened to expose him unless he paid up. But he didn't have the liquid cash. Most of the stolen money was tied up in investments and used to pay gambling debts. He needed time to liquidate assets. Harrison looked stunned. So the fake death was Rebecca's idea. She wanted to disappear with the money, start a new life somewhere else. But she needed everyone to believe she was dead so there'd be no investigation into her disappearance. But something went wrong, Denise said. Very wrong. Dr. Phillips was supposed to help stage the death scene, then get Rebecca out of the country within 24 hours. But Lana witnessed the fake murder, and her psychological reaction was more severe than anyone expected. Kumar flipped a page in his notebook. When Lana went blind from trauma, Rebecca panicked. She realized if she suddenly reappeared alive, people would ask questions about why Lana's sight didn't return with the relief of learning her mother was safe. So she stayed dead, Lana said quietly. She stayed dead and kept pressuring Thomas for money. He's been sending her payments for 5 years. $200,000 total. Mrs. Patterson gasped. All this time, she's been alive and taking money while we thought she was murdered? Gets worse. Rebecca only came back now because Thomas finally ran out of ways to steal more money. The newspaper's financial audits were getting too close, and he couldn't embezzle enough to meet her demands. Harrison stood up abruptly, his face flushed with anger. So she decided to come back and destroy us instead of simply disappearing with what she already had. Revenge, Mr. Sterling. She blames all of you for not giving her the welcome she expected. She thought she could walk back into her old life and pick up where she left off. What about the evidence she threatened us with? Detective Kumar smiled grimly. Mostly fabricated. She's been creating fake documents for months, planning this confrontation. But she made a critical error. He pulled out his phone and showed them a photograph. This is a financial record she claims proves you knew about the embezzlement, Mr. Sterling. It shows your approval for a suspicious transaction. But look at the date. Harrison squinted at the screen. October 20th, 2019. The day after Rebecca's supposed death. Exactly. Rebecca's dead body would have been discovered on October 17th. You would have been planning a funeral, not approving business transactions. The timeline makes no sense. She's not very good at this, Denise observed. Desperation makes people sloppy. Rebecca's been living off stolen money for 5 years, but it's running out. She needs a big score, and she thought she could blackmail or manipulate her way back into the Sterling fortune. Lana had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. What happens to her now? She'll be arrested for conspiracy, extortion, fraud, and abandonment of a minor. She's looking at significant prison time. Good, Lana said firmly. She chose money over her family. She chose lies over truth. She doesn't deserve to be free. Harrison knelt beside his daughter's chair. Lana, I know this is confusing. Rebecca is still your biological mother. No, she's not. Lana's voice was clear and final. A mother protects her children. A mother chooses her family over money. A mother doesn't disappear for 5 years and then try to destroy everyone who took care of her child. She looked at Denise. Miss Denise has been more of a mother to me in 4 days than Rebecca was in 5 years. Denise felt her eyes fill with tears. Lana. I mean it. You protected me when I was scared. You helped me find my voice when I was ready to speak. You stayed when things got dangerous. Lana turned back to Harrison. Daddy, I want Miss Denise to be my real mother. Not Rebecca. Harrison looked at Denise with an expression she couldn't quite read. Lana, that's a very big decision. Miss Denise might have her own plans, her own life to get back to. But Denise was already shaking her head. I don't want to get back to my old life. These past few days, helping Lana find her truth, fighting for what's right. This is who I want to be. This is where I want to be. Are you sure? Being part of this family won't be easy. There will be media attention, legal proceedings, therapy sessions. It won't be a normal life. I don't want normal, Denise said. I want real. I want honest. I want to wake up every morning knowing I'm fighting for people I love. Detective Kumar cleared his throat. Speaking of fighting, you should know that Rebecca is on her way back here. She's bringing a reporter and a photographer. She plans to hold a press conference on your front lawn in about an hour. Let her come, Harrison said. We have nothing to hide anymore. What will we tell them? Mrs. Patterson asked. Lana stood up, walking to the window where she could see the street clearly for the first time in 5 years. We'll tell them the truth. All of it. About the fake murder, about the money, about the lies. About how sometimes families aren't born, they're chosen. She reached for Denise's hand. And we'll tell them that love isn't about blood or marriage certificates. It's about showing up when someone needs you most. As they watched through the window, news vans began arriving on Marlborough Street. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Denise wasn't afraid of what was coming. They had the truth on their side. And they had each other. The press conference had turned into a circus. Rebecca stood on the front lawn of the Sterling mansion, flanked by an ambitious young reporter and a photographer, her carefully prepared story unraveling in real time as Detective Kumar presented the actual evidence to the growing crowd of media. Denise watched from the living room window as Rebecca's face went from confident to desperate to furious. The fake financial documents she'd brought as proof of Harrison's involvement were being examined by forensic accountants who'd arrived with the police. The timeline discrepancies Detective Kumar had mentioned were becoming obvious to everyone present. The metadata on these documents shows they were created last month, not 5 years ago, the lead accountant announced to the crowd. Furthermore, the digital signatures don't match Mr. Sterling's actual authorization protocols from 2019. That's impossible, Rebecca protested. I saved those documents from Harrison's personal files. Ma'am, these documents reference accounting software that Sterling Media didn't adopt until 2021. They couldn't have existed in 2019. Lana stood beside Denise at the window, her face calm despite the chaos outside. She really thought she could fool everyone. Desperation makes people believe their own lies, Denise replied. She's been telling herself this story for so long, she probably convinced herself it was true. Harrison entered the room, having just finished giving his statement to Detective Kumar. It's over. Rebecca's been arrested for fraud, extortion, and filing false police reports. Thomas is cooperating fully with prosecutors. Dr. Phillips is looking at life in prison. What about Mrs. Patterson? Lana asked. Community service and probation. The prosecutor agrees she was manipulated rather than complicit. Mrs. Patterson herself appeared in the doorway, her eyes red from crying but her posture straighter than it had been in days. Mr. Sterling, I want to apologize again for my part in all this. I should have questioned Dr. Phillips more carefully. I should have trusted my instincts. Evelyn, you were lied to by people you had every reason to trust. That's not your fault. Still, I failed Miss Lana. I failed this family. Lana turned from the window and walked to Mrs. Patterson, taking the older woman's hands in hers. You didn't fail me. You kept me safe for 5 years. You made sure I had clean clothes and good food and a warm bed. You were kind to me even when you thought I couldn't see your kindness. But I helped them keep you trapped. You helped them keep me alive. There's a difference. Lana's voice was wise beyond her years. And now that we know the truth, we can all do better. Through the window, they watched as Rebecca was led to a police car in handcuffs. The reporter who'd come with her was now interviewing Detective Kumar, getting the real story for what would undoubtedly be a very different headline than Rebecca had planned. "I feel sorry for her," Lana said quietly. Harrison looked surprised. "After everything she put you through? She's my birth mother. I can't just stop caring about her completely. But feeling sorry for someone doesn't mean you have to let them hurt you." Denise felt a surge of pride. This 10-year-old child had more emotional wisdom than most adults she knew. "What happens now?" Mrs. Patterson asked. "Now we start over," Harrison said. "We rebuild this family on truth instead of secrets. We figure out how to be happy." He looked at Denise. "That is, if you're still willing to be part of this chaos." Before Denise could answer, Lana spoke up. "Daddy, I've been thinking about what I said earlier. About wanting Miss Denise to be my mother." "Lana, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to. But I want to. And I think Miss Denise wants to too. But I also think maybe we should do it the right way." Harrison and Denise exchanged glances. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "I mean maybe Daddy should ask Miss Denise to marry him first. And then she can adopt me properly. So we can be a real family with papers and everything." The suggestion hung in the air like a question mark. Denise felt her heart racing. Marriage. Adoption. A real family. Things she'd never let herself dream about because her life had been too focused on fighting other people's battles. "Lana," Harrison said carefully, "marriage is something adults decide together. It's not just about creating a family for you." "I know that. But I also know you like each other. I can see it when you look at each other. And Miss Denise makes you smile the way you used to smile in the old pictures with Rebecca, except better." "Better how?" Denise asked, curious despite her embarrassment. "More real. Like you're not just happy because you're supposed to be happy. Like you're happy because you choose to be happy." Out of the mouths of babes. Lana had just described the difference between love born of expectation and love born of choice. Harrison moved closer to Denise, his expression serious but warm. "She's not wrong about how I feel. These past few days, watching you fight for Lana, seeing your courage and your kindness. I haven't felt this way about anyone since Rebecca and I first met. But this time it's different." "Different how?" "Built on truth. Built on seeing who you really are in crisis, not just who you are when everything's easy." Denise thought about her old life, the career that had been destroyed, the apartment she'd been planning to leave, the future she'd been uncertain about. None of it seemed important anymore compared to the family that was forming around her. "I love her," she said simply, looking at Lana. "I love both of you. And yes, I want to be part of this family. However that happens." "However that happens?" Denise smiled. "I'm saying yes, Harrison. To whatever you're asking. Marriage, adoption, rebuilding Sterling Media into something that fights for truth instead of hiding from it. All of it." Lana hooped with joy and threw her arms around both adults. "Does this mean we can have a wedding? A real wedding with a white dress and flowers and cake?" "If that's what you want," Harrison laughed. "I want everything to be real this time. No pretending, no secrets, no lies. Just truth and love and family." Mrs. Patterson wiped her eyes with her apron. "I suppose you'll be needing a wedding planner then. And someone to redecorate Miss Lana's room in yellow like she wanted." "Are you applying for the job?" Harrison asked. "If you'll have me. This family has been through enough changes. Some consistency might be good." "We'd love to have you stay, Mrs. Patterson," Denise said. "But only if you want to. No more staying out of obligation or fear. I want to stay because this feels like home. Real home, not just a house where people live." Detective Kumar knocked on the front door, and Harrison went to let him in. The detective looked tired but satisfied. "Final cleanup," he announced. "Rebecca will be arraigned Monday morning. Thomas is cooperating fully and will likely get a reduced sentence in exchange for testimony. Dr. Phillips is being held without bail." "What about the media circus outside?" Denise asked. "Dying down now that the real story's out. You might get some follow-up interview requests, but the sensational angle is gone. Turns out, Family Rebuilt on Truth and Love doesn't sell as many papers as Billionaire's Daughter Fakes Blindness. Good, Lana said firmly. I don't want to be famous for lying. If I'm going to be famous, I want it to be for something good. Like what? Kumar asked. Like helping other kids who are scared to tell the truth. Like showing people that families can be different but still be real. Detective Kumar smiled. You know what, Miss Lana? I think you're going to do just fine. As the detective left and the last of the news vans pulled away from Marlborough Street, the Sterling mansion finally fell quiet. Harrison, Denise, and Lana stood together in the living room, looking out at the peaceful street where their new life was beginning. So what's our first official act as a family? Harrison asked. Dinner, Lana announced. A real family dinner where we all sit at the table and talk about our day and nobody has to pretend to be anything they're not. I can make my famous lasagna, Mrs. Patterson offered from the kitchen. Actually, Denise said, I was thinking maybe we could order pizza. Something normal families do. Pizza it is, Harrison agreed. But first. He pulled out his phone. I need to call my lawyer about starting adoption proceedings. And my jeweler about engagement rings. And my publicist about announcing some very happy news. What news? Lana asked. That Harrison Sterling, his daughter Lana, and his future wife Denise are starting a new chapter. Together. With no secrets, no lies, and no apologies for choosing love over everything else. As Harrison made his calls and Mrs. Patterson set the table for their first official family dinner, Denise found herself alone with Lana by the window. The child who had been trapped in false blindness for 5 years now looked out at the world with clear, confident eyes. Are you happy? Denise asked. I'm more than happy, Lana replied. I'm free. Free to see everything, free to speak the truth, free to love the people who choose to love me back. She took Denise's hand. Thank you for teaching me that being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and choosing to do the right thing anyway. You taught me that too, sweetheart. As the sun set over Boston, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that Lana could finally admit to seeing, the Sterling family sat down to their first honest meal together. No pretense, no performance, no protection from painful truths. Just love. Real, chosen, unshakable love. And sometimes, Denise thought as she watched Lana laugh at one of Harrison's jokes, that's the only miracle anyone really needs. 6 months later, the morning sun streamed through the yellow walls of Lana's newly redecorated bedroom as she practiced her violin by the window. Real practice this time, not the careful charade she'd maintained for years. Mrs. Patterson knocked and entered with fresh flowers from the garden. Your parents are downstairs with the lawyer, Mrs. Patterson said, arranging the daisies in a vase. Final adoption papers. Finally! Lana set down her violin. Today, Denise would officially become her legal mother. Downstairs in Harrison's study, now bright with open curtains and family photos, Denise signed the last document. Judge Morrison, Harrison's old friend who had recused himself from any Sterling family legal matters to avoid conflicts of interest, had recommended the adoption attorney who guided them through the process. It's official, the lawyer announced. Lana Sterling is now legally Lana Sterling Stanton. Harrison squeezed Denise's hand. They'd married in a small ceremony 3 months earlier, with Lana as maid of honor and Detective Kumar walking Denise down the aisle. No media circus, just family and friends who mattered. Speaking of legal matters, Harrison said, any word on Rebecca's sentencing? Final hearing is next month. With her cooperation regarding Thomas Hartwell's other financial crimes, she's looking at 8 to 12 years. Dr. Phillips got life without parole for Rebecca's kidnapping and attempted murder charges on you, Miss Stanton. Denise nodded grimly. Justice, finally. What about Thomas? 5 years, eligible for parole in 3 with good behavior. His testimony about the broader corruption network helped prosecutors build cases against 6 other individuals involved in the city contract fraud ring. The original newspaper investigation that had started everything was finally bearing fruit. Sterling Media, under Harrison's renewed leadership, had published a comprehensive exposé that led to multiple arrests and reforms in Boston city government. "And the medical board?" Denise asked. "Your nursing license was fully reinstated last month, with a formal apology for the board's handling of your whistleblowing case. Dr. Hoffman, the doctor you originally reported, was finally prosecuted thanks to evidence that came out during the Phillips investigation." Denise smiled. Her vindication had been complete, but more importantly, it had prevented other patients from being harmed. Lana burst into the study, her face glowing. "Is it done? Am I officially adopted?" "Officially and completely," Denise confirmed, pulling her daughter into her arms. "You're stuck with us now." "Good. I have something to show you." Lana led them to the living room where an easel held a canvas covered by a sheet. "I've been working on this for weeks." She pulled away the sheet to reveal a painting of their family. Harrison in his navy suit, but smiling. Denise in her bright coral jacket from the day they met. Lana herself in a yellow dress, her eyes bright and focused. Mrs. Patterson in the background, part of the family portrait. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Harrison said. "It's us. Really us. No pretending, no hiding. Just our real family." Detective Kumar arrived for lunch, as had become tradition on important family days. He'd become something of an uncle figure to Lana, teaching her about justice and truth-telling. "How's the new job treating you?" he asked Denise. Denise's investigative journalism unit at Sterling Media had published 3 major exposés in 6 months, all focused on medical corruption and institutional cover-ups. The work was exactly what she'd been meant to do. "We just got approval to investigate that children's hospital in Springfield. Anonymous tip about doctors falsifying disability diagnoses for insurance fraud." "Sounds familiar," Kumar said dryly. "Different crime, same principle. Vulnerable people being exploited by those who should protect them." "Any word from your sister?" Harrison asked. Violet Stanton had flown in from California for the wedding and adoption, finally understanding why Denise had disappeared so completely into this new life. The sisters talked weekly now, rebuilding a relationship that had been strained by years of Denise's career focus. "She's coming for Lana's birthday next month. Bringing her kids so Lana can meet her cousins." "Real cousins or chosen cousins?" Lana asked with a grin. "Both. Family is family." Mrs. Patterson served lunch on the patio, where they could enjoy the June sunshine. The conversation was easy, natural, the kind of family meal Lana had dreamed of during her years of isolation. "Mrs. Patterson," Lana said suddenly, "I never asked. Do you have any family of your own?" The older woman paused in serving dessert. "I have a daughter in Seattle. We haven't spoken in years." She disapproved of my working for wealthy families instead of pursuing my own life. "Maybe it's time to call her," Denise suggested gently. "Families can heal if both sides are willing to try." "Maybe they can," Mrs. Patterson agreed. "I've learned a lot about forgiveness and second chances working for this family." That afternoon, Lana asked to visit Rebecca in prison. It was her first request to see her birth mother since the arrest. "Are you sure?" Harrison asked. "You don't owe her anything." "I know. But I want to tell her about my life. About school and friends and violin lessons. I want her to see who I really am when I'm not scared." The prison visit was supervised and brief. Rebecca looked older, worn down by incarceration and the weight of her choices. But when Lana spoke about her new life, her adoption, her happiness, something in Rebecca's face softened. "I'm glad you're safe," Rebecca said finally. "I'm glad you found people who put you first." "I forgive you," Lana replied. "Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to not carry anger anymore." It was the closure they both needed. That evening, as Denise tucked Lana into bed in her yellow room, the child asked the question that had been on her mind all day. "Do you think we'll be happy forever?" "I think we'll be real forever," Denise replied. "And real includes sad days and hard times and disagreements. But it also means we'll face all of it together, honestly." "That sounds better than perfect. Much better." As Denise turned off the light, Lana called out one more time. "Mom!" It was the first time Lana had called her that, and it made Denise's heart skip. Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for seeing me. Really seeing me. Thank you for letting me. Downstairs, Harrison was working on his laptop at the kitchen table, reviewing articles for the next day's edition. Sterling Media had become Boston's most trusted news source, known for investigative integrity and commitment to exposing institutional corruption. Any interesting stories? Denise asked, settling beside him with tea. Actually, yes. Remember that tip about the hospital in Springfield? Turns out it's connected to a network of facilities across 3 states, all falsifying pediatric disability diagnoses for insurance fraud. How many children affected? Potentially hundreds. Kids being kept in unnecessary treatments, families being charged for services their children don't need. Denise felt the familiar fire in her chest. When do we start investigating? Monday. But tonight, let's just be a family. They sat together in comfortable silence, planning their daughter's upcoming birthday party, discussing summer vacation possibilities, living the ordinary moments that had once seemed impossible. Outside, Boston hummed with its usual evening energy. Inside the Sterling mansion on Marlborough Street, a family that had been built on truth and choice and love prepared for whatever tomorrow might bring. Together. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, wait until you see what's coming next. It's even more powerful and inspiring than you can imagine. So don't go anywhere. Click on that video showing on your screen right now to dive into another amazing story that will absolutely blow your mind. Trust me, you won't regret it.